Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm Kevin, and this is Horology Project. And as you can imagine, I have another watch for review today, and I'm really excited about this one. This is the Tudor Black Bay Pro, a watch that many of us have been waiting for some time. And what do I mean by that? Well, I don't know if you're new to the watch game or if you've been in the watch game for a few years, but if you didn't know, Tudor has been a hot watch for the last several years, making beautiful timepieces that people are just gobbling up. But I really think that Tudor hit its biggest stride in 2018. So let me give you a little bit of history. Before 2018, Tudor released a watch called the Black Bay. Now, this was a dive watch in 41 millimeters, and it came eventually with a variation of colors in the bezel: red, blue, and black. Well, in 2018, Tudor changed the game for their divers, and they came out with the Tudor GMT and the Black Bay 58. Everybody was surprised by both of these watches. One, because they didn't imagine that Tudor would come out with a GMT watch that, in some ways, people could say competes with the Rolex GMT Master 2. And then the other thing is the Black Bay 58. In fact, I actually remember more people paying attention to the GMT at that time than the Black Bay 58. Well, we know how that went, and I would say that the Black Bay 58 eventually surpassed people's enthusiasm over the GMT. And the biggest reason for that was because once people started to actually get the Black Bay 58 in hand, they realized that the proportions on the Black Bay 58 were just absolutely perfect for most people. 39 millimeters across the bezel, 47 millimeters lug tip to lug tip, 20 millimeters from lug width. It was perfect. Well, guess what? This watch has those exact proportions that I just mentioned, with the only exception being the side of the case. That has been the point of contention for this watch, but it also is the excitement around this watch is the fact that ever since people started getting hands-on with the Black Bay 58, they wished that that Tudor, pardon, I'm always trying to say Rolex here, that Tudor would release a GMT in the Black Bay 58 sizing of 39 millimeters, and they did just that with this beautiful Tudor Pro in front of you here. So let me walk you around the watch a little bit. I just mentioned a few of the dimensions, and the last being its thickness, which is I think somewhere around 14.6 or 14.8 millimeters, so just under 15 millimeters thick. Now you have to realize that even though this is closer to 15 millimeters, some of those millimeters are being taken from underneath with the case right there, as well as the crystal on top. So because of that, it is slightly smaller than the close to 15 millimeters on the spec sheet, but it is a slab-sided case, which means that it's pretty flat, so it wears large for sure, or it wears thicker, I should say, for sure. The back of the watch has a beautiful clasp system that Tudor upgraded with this clasp. This is the first stainless steel model of Tudor's lineup that has the T-fit clasp, but already a lot of Tudor watches have had these ceramic ball bearings. This really helps spare the watch from the watch chewing up the detent, or chewing up this the watch there when you open and close it. So what that basically means is for a long time this watch will be able to open and close, and it not degrade over time and loosen over time like some older watch models out there. But the T-fit system is really cool. It's very similar to the glide lock, but unlike the glide lock, when you push out, the glide lock locks in that position and then you adjust it and then close it. This one does all of that through a spring tension system. So if I have to pull down on it and if I let go, it goes back upwards. But it's very similar to the glide lock in every other regard, where there's detents and you adjust it to where you want to go. You may notice that I have a half link right there. That is not from Tudor, but that is from Uncle Seiko. So shout out to Uncle Seiko for helping me get the perfect sizing on this watch. Not paying me to say that at all, just a really great guy, really great company, and I'm a big fan. So this watch is a GMT watch. Even though it's not the Tudor GMT, it's the Tudor Pro. And what that means is that it has a GMT hand and a local hour hand. Now, this watch is unlike other Black Bays, where it's not really looking at Tudor's past catalog, since Tudor has never made a GMT watch before. Rather, this watch is looking more at Rolex's catalog, which you could say that all Tudor watches are looking at Rolex's catalog, but it's specifically looking at, in my opinion, the 1655, which is the first Rolex Explorer II, released for cave diving. However, this watch enjoys some of the modern benefits that both the Explorer II line enjoys, as well as Tudor, where it has a local jumping hour hand. And what that means is that you could use this watch as a traveler's GMT, which means that if you enter into a new time zone, you simply unwind the crown, pull it out to the second position, and then you can jump the hour hands. So for instance, I live in Colorado. If I'm visiting family in the East Coast, I would jump it 1, 2, boom, I'm on East Coast time. If I was going to West Coast, I'd have to bring it back to my mountain time and then do it another hour backwards. I'm in West Coast time. Or Central time, there we go. All said, all good to go, all done there, and I'm in the time zone I want to be. This also has a date function change based off of that local hour hand. So you can both wind it forward and wind it backwards. So as you can imagine, it's very helpful, fun movement or complication that people really like. This comes with a very large crown, which I love. It makes it very easy to manipulate. Now I'm going to throw it on the wrist to help you judge whether you think that this is a large watch. And just a little bit of a wristwatch check, I am wearing another Tudor. This is the reference 74000. Did I say 3 zeros? There's 3 zeros. And I love this watch. In fact, this is actually becoming one of my favorite pieces. This watch is in 34 millimeters, but wears phenomenal. So I'll do a review on this one day. But here, let's look at the size comparison. This is 34 millimeters, and we're going to throw on a 39 millimeter. This is also a very thin watch at around 10 millimeters, I believe. So let's see what close to 15 feels like now. So I'll set this aside right there, and we'll just put it more out of frame, and we'll put on this Tudor. Well, for one, it's a lot heavier, but boy, doesn't that wear just absolutely perfect? Gosh, 39 millimeter really is the sweet spot for most people. As you'll notice, I like trying to lay my hand more further away from the camera, because a lot of photos on Instagram or watch forums, they're like, boom, they're like right in your face like that. And that's fine. You get to appreciate the watch up close, but it's not really representative to what you're seeing on your own wrists. Because one, these cameras kind of make the watch appear larger, but two, we're really not looking at the watch that close. So I try to, just for the sake of you guys, I try to push the watch back a little further from the camera so you can see how it actually wears, how it would wear on your own wrist. So I have a smaller 6.5 inch wrist, and you'll see that this looks just so classy, so nice. So here it is, kind of just looking at it from the larger portion of what people complain about. And you'll see it's really not that bad, right guys? It's not too bad. And even with a tighter sweater that I'm wearing, you'll notice that, look, goes underneath just fine. So if you have a dress shirt or really a long sleeve shirt, I've had no problems with this going underneath. It doesn't block it or anything like that. So such a beautiful watch. Would I like it if this watch was a millimeter or two thinner? Of course I would. Who wouldn't, right? Thinner watches for the most part, tend to be better. But this is a sports watch, and we need to keep that in mind, that it's a sports watch, and it's so much value in the luxury world. I mean, the reality is none of us need to spend a few $1,000s on a watch. But this watch is less than half the price of what the Rolex Explorer II is, which it models and mimics, and it has pretty much just as many features. So in fact, from my own Rolex Explorer II, this watch actually beats it in most categories. Now I have an older reference, 40 millimeter Explorer II, and this has 70-hour power reserve. That watch only has about 40. This has 200 millimeters of water resistance. Again, the Rolex only has 100. This doesn't have crown guards, but it has such a large crown, this is easier to manipulate. So this watch, and then of course that T-Fit class system. So really, you're not doing yourself any negative disservice by going with this Tudor. And in fact, I would say for a lot of people, it's probably a leg up from some of the watches that they might be looking at online, specifically the older reference Rolex Explorer IIs. So such just a beautiful timepiece. I really highly recommend it. I think for most of us out there that are looking for a watch in this styling, that you're going to be very, very pleased over it. I know I am. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think that this watch is too thick? I think we all know we wish it was a little thinner, but do you think on my wrist it wears too thick? If you have the watch, what are your thoughts about that? It's obviously not as thin as watches like this, but you know, for a sports watch, do you think it's in the margin of acceptability? And would you pick this watch over the older reference Explorer IIs? So I'd be curious to know your thoughts. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment those as well. I'll do my best to answer any of the questions that you might have about the Tudor Black Bay Pro. Well, as always, if you like this video, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more watch content, and we'll see you in the next video. Hopefully I'll be getting this one reviewed, and I have a few other videos that I've been working on, including an Explorer 2 video. So stay around, subscribe, and find out more. See you in the next one.